Notice is hereby given of the regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Town of Westfield in the County of Union, New Jersey at 8 p.m. on the evening of Tuesday, January 10th, 2012, in the boardroom of the Administration Building, 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey. The purpose of the meeting is to transact the regular business of the board and to transact any other business to come properly before the board. This is to advise the general public and to instruct that it be recorded in the minutes that in compliance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, entitled the Open Public Meetings Act, the Westfield School Board on Friday, January 6, 2012, caused to be posted at the office of the Board of Education located at 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey, and delivered to the Westfield Leader, the Star Ledger, the Westfield Library, Town Clerk of Westfield, Alternative Press, and Patch.com, a meeting notice setting forth the time, date, and location of this meeting. So with that, first regular meeting of the year. Welcome back, everyone. Got a lot to do as a board. Vince, take a roll call.
I believe we'll do the flag salute, and then we'll have the...
I have it backwards on my agenda.
Yeah, okay.
All right, we're going to go off agenda for a minute. Mitch, could you lead us in flag salute?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Vince,
We'll have the swearing in of the new member first.
we're going to do a roll call, and then we'll go to appointment of new board member.
Okay. Mr. Matesic?
Here.
Mr. Finn?
Here.
Ms. Carey?
Here.
Mrs. Clancy?
Here.
Mr. Friedman?
Here.
Ms. Kirstead?
Here.
Mrs. Lights?
Here.
Mr. Slater?
Here. All right. Yeah, so just backwards now. Next topic is the appointment of a new board member. So let me just give some context. In November 2011, Julia Walker resigned from the Board of Education, giving the board 60 days to have a replacement member sworn in to serve on the board. And tonight, we hope to do just that. Julia's replacement will serve until the 2012 townwide annual election of school board members, at which time the town will elect the candidate to serve the remaining 1 year on Julia's 3-year term. The board interviewed 7 candidates last Tuesday, January 3rd. Each candidate came with a prepared statement based on a specific written request, which they all received from the board. And during the interview, each candidate was also asked the exact same 3 questions, which they did not receive in advance. The statement and questions were designed to help the board understand each candidate's motivations for running, qualifications to serve, and to help us pick the most qualified candidate based on the current needs of the district. One thing that was clearly abundant to the board last Tuesday night is that there is no shortage of well-qualified, enthusiastic members of our community who are anxious to volunteer their time to serve the students of our district. And that's why we're all here to begin with. Based on the interviews we conducted, I'd now like to ask for nominations for candidates to serve on this Board of Education, effective immediately, and to serve until the next annual townwide election of school board candidates. Ann.
I would like to nominate Gretchen Olig to be appointed to the board tonight. Last week, when Gretchen gave her opening statement, she said that she had a vested interest in the schools as both a parent and a taxpayer, showing her understanding of the board's commitment to providing the best education for our children while being mindful of the need to be efficient with our tax dollars. She was also a member of the Strategic Planning Council that put together the 2010-2015 strategic plan, so she is knowledgeable about the important issues facing our schools and our students, and was a part of developing our current goals and objectives. She has served as the president of the Jefferson PTO, a member of the Parent-Teacher Council, and as president of the Westfield Education Fund, all of which speak to her interest in and dedication to Westfield's public schools. I feel that Gretchen will bring enthusiasm, creativity, patience, and analytical skills to the table, so therefore I nominate her here tonight to serve until the next election.
And I am honored to second the nomination of Gretchen Olig to join us tonight.
All right. Any discussion? Comments? All right, are there any other nominations?
Move the nominations be closed.
I second.
Nominations are closed. If there are no comments or questions, I'd ask Mr. Yaniro, please conduct a roll call.
Mr. Matesic?
Yes.
Mr. Finn?
Yes.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Mrs. Clancy?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Kerstad?
Yes.
Mrs. Lights?
Yes.
Mr. Slade?
Yes.
All right, with that, Gretchen? My honor to welcome you aboard. Rick, if you could conduct the swearing in.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Gretchen Oleg,
I, Gretchen Oleg,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established in the United States and this state,
and to the governments established in the United States and this state,
and the authority of the people, so help me God.
and the authority of the people, so help me God.
I, Gretchen Oleg,
I, Gretchen Oleg,
do solemnly swear that I possess the qualifications
do solemnly swear that I possess the qualifications
prescribed by law for the office of a member of the Board of Education,
prescribed by law for the office of a member of the Board of Education,
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform
all the duties of that office according to the best of my abilities, so help me God.
all the duties of that office according to the best of my abilities, so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Oh, yes, you sit.
No, you have to stand.
And sit. And sit. And sit.
Oh,
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I have a name.
You have a name tag? Feel free to say a few words if you'd like.
I don't want to take a lot of time. I just want to say thank you to the board for your confidence and your consideration, and I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to be here.
We're thrilled to have you. Thank you.
Thank you. And my kids can go now. Thank you.
But thank them for coming.
Yes. Yes.
Buddy, wise guys.
Yeah,
Good reminder of why we're here.
that's right.
All right. With that, let's go to announcements. Start over here. Mark, do you have anything?
Yes, I do.
All right.
Lincoln School is now accepting applications for the 2012-2013 preschool program. The integrated program, which uses the creative curriculum for preschool, is comprised of general education students and students who have been found eligible for special education. General education students will be selected for this program by lottery. Applicants must be residents of Westfield and 3 or 4 years of age before October 1st of 2012. Applications for the lottery are available on the district website. During school hours, applications may also be obtained in person at Lincoln School, the Office of Special Education Services, and the main office of any of the elementary schools in Westfield. All applications must be returned to Lincoln School no later than 4 p.m. on January 19th, 2012. Please check the website for more information.
On January 18th, a special education roundtable on IEP preparation will be held at 7:30 p.m. in Edison Intermediate School in their library. This will include a presentation from the staff of the Department of Special Services regarding the IEP process, which is Individualized Education Plan. Directly following this presentation, parents will form breakout groups by school level in order to share experiences and knowledge with one another, with the objective to create appropriate goals and accommodations and services for their children. Thank you to the PTC Special Education Parent Committee for hosting this event.
Westfield High School Model UN. 122 Westfield High School students participated in the Model United Nations Conference in Hershey, Pennsylvania from January 6th to January 8th, bringing home many awards and commendations. The delegation as a whole received 2 awards. The first, Premier Delegation, is given to the 2 delegations that showed the best overall performance at the conference, such as their officer performance, delegate knowledge and decorum, awards, etc. The second, Outstanding Delegation, is given to the delegations that get all of their paperwork into the conference on time. The club is run in conjunction with the Westfield Y under the leadership of advisors and Westfield High School teachers Daniel Faribault and David Della Fera. Approximately 1,600 students participate in the conference from many schools around the region, and congratulations to our hardworking and award-winning delegates and advisors.
We have a school closing announcement. All Westfield Public Schools will be closed on Monday, January 16th, in observance of Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. The 25th annual Interfaith Commemorative service will be held at 1 p.m. at the Presbyterian Church in Westfield, following a procession at 12:15 p.m. at the Martin Luther King Monument at the South Avenue Circle. Westfield school children have been invited to participate in the annual Essay, Poetry, and Art contest sponsored by the Martin Luther King Jr. Association of Westfield. The winners will be announced during the service.
Mitch? Anything on your end? Jane?
Congratulations to senior Olivia Pecora, who is a Westfield High School recipient of the NJSIAA Award, honoring a female athlete in the secondary schools. Olivia was nominated by her field hockey and softball coach, Caitlin McDonald, who praised Olivia's determination to make certain that no one on her teams compromised values and hard work. Known as a role model for her peers, Olivia also is an active member of Girls Learn International, which addresses the obstacles facing girls and women in developing countries and seeks to effect positive change worldwide. So congratulations to Olivia.
And this is from the intermediate schools. Congratulations to Edison Intermediate School's Upstanding Citizens Council for another successful community service initiative. The students collected hundreds of books, dozens of games, art supplies, and even some clothing, which were delivered to the new community room at the Newark YMCA. The contributions reflect the spirit of giving within the district.
Thank you.
Would you read that?
I have 2 announcements. The first is that the next Board of Education meeting will be held Tuesday, January 24th. The agenda will include the second reading of the district's new code of conduct. The second announcement is that tonight we are honoring Westfield High School's boys cross-country team. The team is represented by varsity players who we have the privilege of congratulating personally. The cross-country team certainly lived up to their name this school year. Several of you actually flew across the country to compete in Nike's national competition in Oregon on December 3rd. This was the first time in our memories that Westfield has been invited to such a distinguished meet. All of you varsity members contributed to the Group 4 state championship on November 19th in Holmdel Park, where you battled the top teams in New Jersey. You ran the fastest time in school history, and many of you broke your personal records. Not only did you win first place in your division, you placed second in all the groups for the NJSIAA, second to the #1 team in the state and the country. November 26th, at the Nike Northeast Regional Race, the top teams from New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts, Vermont, and Rhode Island competed, and our Blue Devils raced to a strong third-place finish against 30 teams. Our own Jack Leahy earned the title of Nike Northeast Regional Champion. The season began with the 3rd straight Union County Championship and ended with our Blue Devil boys cross-country team placing 22nd in the entire nation. This is an amazing accomplishment for our student athletes and their coaches Jack Martin, who's retiring this year, and Chris Tefelsky. Thank you for your dedication, hard work, and incredible success. I'd like to call out your names, the names of our varsity players, and as I do that, please come up to the podium and please accept a certificate of appreciation from the Westfield Board of Education. Jack Leahy. John Kieran. Matt Lupino. Kevin Ingram. David Carville. Kevin Smith. Evan Tarlow. Dan Lucy. Jack Campbell. Michael Riley. Jason Colasanti. And Tommy Edwards. I'd like to just add also that Jack Martin coached the final meet of his legendary career as Westfield boys cross-country coach at the Nike Nationals in Oregon. It was an exciting end to 38 years of exemplary leadership to student athletes who gained much from his motivation and determination. Jack led Westfield to its third straight Group 4 title state championship in November. It was his fifth overall. He has inspired and trained thousands of student athletes, including his co-head coach, Chris Tefelsky, a Westfield High School graduate and current teacher who ran on 2 state Group 4 championships in the mid-1990s. Jack Martin has been praised by his team members, colleagues, and press, including the Star-Ledger naming him Cross-Country Coach of the Year in 2009. It's only fitting that we honor Westfield's state champions, and we also acknowledge those who lead them to success.
Thank you. I'd just like to say just a couple of words, basically, of appreciation. Over my entire career as a teacher and coaching Westfield, I have to say that the administrators that I've worked with and the Board of Education has been extremely supportive and helpful in accomplishing all of our goals and dreams. And I would hope that as we move forward, that the board continues to support and the administration supports Tefelsky as he takes over in September. I mean, we do have 86 boys on the team, so he's going to need all the help that he can get. Again, thank you for all of your help, and thanks for the opportunity to recognize the boys for their accomplishments. Thank you.
Exit stage right.
Come on, run.
Congratulations.
Now they will.
Good.
That's great.
Clearly, everyone came to see the boys' cross-country team.
well they should.
At this time, I'll take a minute, just as much time as we need, to recognize the public for agenda items. All right, seeing no one come to the podium, we'll move to the superintendent's report. Mr. Dolan.
Thank you. In a moment, I'm going to introduce two people to provide us with an overview of the work of the Guidance Counseling Department tonight. And their view will be a broad perspective on what goes on in that department. But first, I'd like to just take a moment to focus on one aspect of the work of our counselors throughout the district. As many people in the community know, this unfortunately has been a difficult year in the district insofar as we've experienced a great deal of loss. 2 of our active teachers have died during the past year. Some of our recent graduates have also died, as have parents of current students over the last year. And each time we've experienced one of these losses, we have turned to our counselors in the district. While they might have been grieving themselves, the counselors have helped us. They've helped us express our grief, and they've taught us how to help our students deal with these losses. So I would like to thank not only the 2 counselors who are with us tonight, but also all the counselors in the district who time after time join forces and in times of need and help the students, the staff, and the parents throughout the district. Again, this is but one aspect of what our counselors and our guidance office does undertake every day in the district. But to introduce all of the different aspects of it, I'm going to introduce 2 people. They're both coordinating our efforts in the district. One is Maureen Mazaris, and the other is Christine Huff.
Thank you very much. I think that the next time that we schedule a visit here, I should pay attention to who precedes, because the last time that I was here, I had to follow the Fed challenge and their incredible understanding of Social Security reform in France. And I left slightly educated, but still slightly stumped. I'm now really awed, and I wish they were here, by the accomplishments of the track team. As somebody who stumbles over a treadmill, they are impressive to me. But also, really here, I'm so pleased to be here when I had the chance to stand up for Jack Martin, who was a legend when I started 24 years ago and just became more and more and more of that legend. Somebody we should all admire and respect. And congratulations to you, Mrs. Olick. Thank you. The last time I was here because I had this newly appointed opportunity. And Christine and I spoke before that meeting, and she was unable to be here that night. And at that time, we were both very excited about the opportunity, and I'm happy to say that we still are. That we still are very much enjoying the challenge, enjoying the trust, and enjoying being part of what before us and after us is an extraordinarily competent and dedicated professional group of counselors, K through 12, I might add. Our first semester in this position has been, for us, I think, very satisfying, and we will speak about that from different perspectives. But I know that your concern and the concern of the community, and it is a legitimate one and absolutely important one, is where is the guidance department? I know that the focus is often on the high school, but it also should be and is K through 12. And where are we going? Because it's never good enough to stay still, and we believe that is true. I think that when we talk about where we are and where we're going, it's important for us to frame it always in what guides any excellent counseling program in any school in the country. And that is to really state clearly that our goals and our mission and our philosophy are clearly aligned with the American School Counselor Association standards, those that guide and set the bar for counselors, just as core curriculum standards set the goal for teaching and for learning and for instruction. And I'm sure you have standards in the role you play here in the Board of Education. It's also important for you to understand that as we implement those standards, we tailor them to this community and intend always to align them to the mission statement that the entire community drives by. Your mission statement that you developed is our mission statement, and everything we do is driven by that. That being said, in this particular year, we have set some counseling department goals that we think support those ideas, beliefs, and philosophy, and attempt to move them forward. We are committed as a counseling department, as part of our vision and our commitment, to develop programs and procedures and practices that reach all students, every student in every grade, K through 12. We believe that it is important to recognize that individual student planning in all areas, academic, career, social, and emotional, is imperative. There is no one-size-fits-all practice, no one-size-fits-all program. We must, and we have the opportunity, because we can, to treat our students very individually. We need to know that our services need to be delivered responsibly and in a timely way. We appreciate that the numbers of students we have is our problem. The individual student that any parent has is their concern, and we need to be quick and responsive when we deal with our students, and certainly when we deal with their parents. We need to use our time effectively and efficiently. One of our major goals for this year is to reduce paperwork so that we can increase people work. We are attempting to reduce, to go green, so that we can spend more time with students and less time with their transcripts. We need to be current in changes and trends in the college application process, as well as changes in trends in colleges. We need to be current in career opportunities. We need to be thinking about what students will need to be prepared for in the workforce 2016 and 2020, not the workforce of 2012. We need to understand that for many of our students, the traditional career paths that we enjoy and that students in the past have enjoyed may not be where they need to go. And we need to know what they need to study, learn, and investigate in order to be able to pursue that career moving forward. We need to expand our connections with colleges and universities. We need to discover the middle of America. We need to understand. I'm very proud of the fact that this year, as of today, we have, I can tell you, 3,151 transcripts out to 394 colleges and universities. That's an incredible number of colleges and universities, and a significant increase from this time last year. We need to work effectively with administrators, teachers, and support staff with a tremendous emphasis on mutual respect. We need to understand what we each do and how we each need to work together and not against to accomplish the goals. We welcome supervisors at our meetings. We have been enlightened by their presentations, and I think that they have been earnestly and eagerly listening to some of our concerns and suggestions. We're proud of the work that we're doing in the INRS committee as a way of demonstrating how we want and need to work collaboratively with all of those people who educate children and who move children towards their goals and their objectives. We also need to develop collaborative relationships with resources in our community, especially, and this is really critical, especially with a network of referrals in the mental health care industry. I think it's not news to anybody that managed care has changed the way health care is delivered. In a community, all communities like ours, where the need for mental health services is greater than ever, the resources are fewer than ever. And so part of our goal and our vision is to increase the network and to find those ways to get kids who need support outside of the realm of school counseling, the kind of support they need. I'm also very pleased, and I think Christine will back me up on this, that we have an incredibly gifted group of counselors who are able to deliver individual and personal counseling in many ways. I really thank you, Dr. Dolan, for the remarks in the beginning. It was an incredibly difficult fall for us. It was really challenging. We've had a lot of challenging falls and springs in my career, but this one was hard. And it was hard because it was affecting the staff and it was affecting the students. But I took the time in that week before Christmas to step back and look at how things were moving and look at the department and see that counselors were helping staff, how counselors were helping students with sadness, with loss, with confusion, at the same time that they were meeting with 9th grade groups to talk about getting ready for exams, and 10th grade groups to do career cruising, and getting transcripts out and celebrating college acceptances with kids. It's a department that can do it all at the same time, and do it well, very well. We think our goal, we know our goal for the year, and part of our ongoing vision is to do whatever we can to improve and maintain ongoing and constant communication with parents. We are working in ways to do that, making some steps forward in the website, but also really working hard to align our parent programs with what we are doing with students. So our 10th grade parent program will align with our career cruising. Our 11th grade parent program will align with what we are hoping 11th grade parents and students will be thinking about and planning for as they proceed. We also set as a goal for us is an opportunity to take advantage of the kind of data that is available to us because of things like Genesis and because of things like Naviance, to really look to take advantage of the kind of reports that technology can deliver to us to really analyze some of the things that are happening. How many students are actually applying to 13, 14, 17, 22 colleges? What is the acceptance rate? When we look at career cruising, how many of our students really are looking possibly at careers that are a little out of the box? And if they are out of the box, what do we need to do to be able to provide for them the opportunity they need to explore that kind of interest and that kind of learning environment that works for them? How can we use that data that we can generate from those reports to improve HESPA scores, to make sure that we are putting the right emphasis in the right places? Technology can be a wonderful thing, and for us not to take advantage of that data, we think, is a missed opportunity. So that is a significant goal for us. Specific objectives, and I'm framing it this way because for us as counselors, just as for a teaching staff or even a Board of Education, specific objectives grow from beliefs, philosophies, vision, and from goals. Some specific things that we are implementing this year to move us forward, to take us one step closer to perfect. We're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. But we always want to be better. So some of the specific things that we are focusing on this year, and it is a big objective for us, is to really, really dive headlong into Naviance. And we are going to be, Christine will tell you about some of the steps forward we're making in our training and what we'll be changing in the way we handle documents. We are really working hard at facilitating more conversation between supervisors and the counseling staff. Dr. Kichek, who is here tonight, will be visiting us on Friday to talk about the BISSP curriculum. Tim Harrison will be with us to talk about the BISSP curriculum and to spend some time talking about some of the English some of the language art courses so that we better understand them, so we can work with our students on their recommendations. We really are working hard to improve, to coordinate parent programs with student programs so that we have parents and students enjoying the same conversation around the same focus. We think that that's important. We are working on the counseling website. It is taking some steps, but I think that some of them are improving. We really are trying to make it friendly. One of the things, it's a small thing, but I don't know that it's such a small thing. We really are trying to allow our parents to have an opportunity to preview every presentation prior to the presentation so that they can look at whatever PowerPoint or information we might be passing out so that they can come to that meeting having thought about their questions and having thought about their concerns, so that time is not wasted thinking about what you're hearing, but thinking about what else it is you need to know. And again, we are focusing a lot on using data to help us drive ourselves forward. I'm going to turn it over to Christine because she's going to tell you about Naviance.
Thank you. So as Maureen mentioned, one of our department's big objectives this year is to look for ways to improve our use of technology. And we are jumping right ahead with utilizing Naviance in more ways than we have in the past. Probably the biggest undertaking is moving from a process of submitting transcripts, all transcripts, by paper, to submitting them online through a program called eDocs. This is something that we've been exploring in many different ways already this year and are looking to begin it next year. 2 of our counselors have already attended a full-day training in December on moving over to eDocs, and our entire department will be trained at the end of this month. In addition, we have visited several other high schools in New Jersey to see firsthand how they're using this program. What difficulties have they run into in making the transition? What's worked well for them? What has not worked well for them? Talking about other aspects of Naviance that they're utilizing and how we might bring that back to Westfield. Moving to eDocs will certainly save resources, a lot of paper, but more importantly, time. We will be able to take the countless hours that we have up until this point spent printing and packaging and mailing transcripts to use that time to meet with students instead. We have also expanded our use of Naviance as it relates to career exploration, as Maureen has mentioned. We are now having all sophomores complete what's called a career interest profiler, in addition to a personality type profile. We believe that enrolling students earlier into the Naviance program will enable them to better track their progress, their own progress academically, and begin to think of future college and/or career goals at a sooner point. In addition, we are receiving training and will be using Naviance's course planning component, which will enable students to draft different academic paths in conjunction with their teachers and their counselor. We're continuing to utilize Genesis in all aspects of the scheduling process, from teacher recommendations and everything in between that and final schedules, which again provides us with more opportunities to meet with students one-on-one and with groups. Another ongoing priority of ours is to continue to focus and provide support for students in the areas of their emotional and social well-being. We are in our third year of running a program in conjunction with the NYU Child Study Center, offering groups for students designed to teach them positive coping skills and interpersonal success. We've had great success with this program. Last year we ran 4 different groups with sophomores and juniors and received positive feedback from both the students and the families. We've trained an additional counselor in this program this year, which brings us up to a total of 7 having received the training. And by the end of the program, in 2 years, all counselors will have had the opportunity to access it. We certainly look forward to continuing to provide this service through this program, but more importantly, even beyond that, beyond the time frame of this particular program, and wish to continue this collaboration with outside resources so that we can assist students in improving their social and emotional well-being, as it certainly corresponds to their learning and their academic achievement.
You want to call on us?
Okay. Yeah, sure. Start over here, Mitch.
Okay.
Mark.
Thank you both for a couple of things. One, for the good presentation tonight, and then also for the smiles that you're bringing to guidance, which I know that there's lots of questions probably around the table. And also thanks for stepping up in the roles that you did at the beginning of the year. I have so many questions, and I don't want them to be too tactical, but maybe I'll start with the one about, and it is a little tactical, what outreach have you all done, either yourselves or through the other counselors, to reach out to parents and or students that are, just coming into, let's talk about the high school just for a second, who are coming into the high school, who are in, are juniors and maybe the seniors. Because let's face it, there is a perception around, I think there's a perception around, I hear it a lot, that we're just not doing enough in guidance. And I think that, you both have called out, 20 different things that you are doing, want to do, and I heard you say, Maureen, a number of times, we need to. So what outreach have we done that has helped you guys develop the focus and the vision that you talked about a lot? Has there been anything formal in outreach?
With new registrations.
Well, with either new registrations or just, kids and parents that are, let's say, already in the high school.
I think that, well, first of all, with new students, I'm going to speak very proudly of the Transition Project, which transitions all ninth graders to the school through peer leadership, which I think is probably one of the most effective ways of engaging a kid in a school, is to introduce them to older students who they can talk to, respect, who also can facilitate small group ways that they might meet others. I think probably our ninth grade groups is one of our favorite activities. We meet all of our ninth graders within the first month of school in small groups. Every counselor meets them and spends that time getting to know their personal interests, their academic interests, gives them an opportunity in writing to express any concerns, fears, anxieties they have about school. And I think that you mentioned something that I think has always been an important concern for me, and what do we do for that student who's new to Westfield, because it is sometimes challenging. I think sometimes we overstate the academic challenge and understate the social transition, but it is very difficult to move, especially at the high school level, into a school where you have 1,852 students and probably 1,600 of them have known somebody in that building since they were 4. So they have become a focus of ours. We have a group that we have going for students new to the district, where we met with them, one of our counselors, in conjunction with a teacher, which I thought was a very nice combination of a teacher and a counselor, had some lunch meetings with them. And one of the most interesting things that happens in that is that the turnout the first time is very big. And then as the year goes by, you see fewer and fewer because they are integrated into the community. I think that parent nights are essential, but I don't think that parent nights ever replace a personal contact. But I will say that connecting with 200 parents on a regular basis is challenging. But I think that that is a focus of ours. I think we really appreciate parent night. We talk about the importance of moving parent nights, especially ninth grade parent night, up as soon as possible. One of the most, for me, as a consumer of whether it's a service or, for me, seeing the face and knowing who it is I need to call or what that person sounds like when I make that initial call is an essential connection. So we hope that if we do that soon in the year, we will at least make that connect and then build upon that.
Right, and you use the word consumer, and I think that's a great way to frame it. How are we trying to match what we think we need to do versus what our consumers feel like they need? So I haven't heard how we're trying to rationalize those two things.
Well, one of the things that we do, and again, this is why I think data is so important, because I believe in numbers data, but I also believe in narrative data, and I think that feedback, and I think that anytime you can get a written response from somebody about what their experience was in working with you, that's an opportunity to improve the service. I think that we have in the past always done kind of an exit survey with our seniors. I'd really like us to do an entrance survey.
And
What
do
is
we
it?
do the exit survey?
Oh, yes, we do. All of our seniors fill out a survey that, and it has that wonderful piece to it. It has 2 parts. It tells us where they were accepted to college, where they're going to college, and what their experiences were with that counselor for the 4 years. How did your counselor help you? How did they help you? What would you have liked them to do differently? What recommendations? And we read every single one of those. And for me as a counselor, I've learned from that. I have learned. I have really learned the ways to do things better, differently, and where I might have missed the boat, and how not to miss that boat again the next time.
And, excuse me, Maureen.
Thank you.
I believe you also have an advisory group that...
We do.
Just for guidance counselors?
We do, and that's been a really valuable group, and that's actually, of all the things, when I met with you in August, I said I was really excited for the challenge, and I was, and I still am, but there are a lot of perks to this that I wasn't anticipating, really, and one of them, it's not necessarily the late nights, no, one of them has been the opportunity to be part of the Guidance Advisory Committee. It's a group of parents that meet one Monday morning a month. And that has been an invaluable experience for me, and I think it was for anybody before me who has done that, is to develop that kind of, it is a group that has a relationship, which I think is really significant, and that relationship allows for some really open conversation. And we have heard some real concerns and attempted to respond. We've also, heard some very nice feedback, which is always lovely, and I think that communication has really been valuable. Because it's grassroots. It's from parents, and it's sincere, and it's parents who represent every grade level. We actually, on our advisory committee this year, have an 8th grade parent, which I think is an incredibly good idea. Somebody who's anticipating the experience of the high school, who has talked a little bit about what she might like to hear at an 8th grade parent orientation or a 9th grade parent orientation. So that system, and it is a system, is really valuable. That's been a perk. I like that.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Mitch?
First of all, I echo everything Mr. Friedman said. Thank you so much, both of you, for stepping up and everything that you're accomplishing. Just terrific. I just want to get a little specific on 2 areas. One, Mr. Friedman touched on briefly, having to do with communications, because I think the anxiety that's existed for years throughout guidance department typically comes through communications, and I guess I'm wondering what our communications plan is that's in place that's consistently alerting parents on issues like, anything from PSATs to honor classes to college visits. How are we consistently getting the word out?
Do you want to turn?
I can speak about one piece.
Sure.
Certainly, we utilize Naviance a lot for communication at many different, in many different ways. One is to notify students when colleges are coming to visit. Students will actually sign up to meet with representatives directly through the Naviance program. We send out communication through Naviance about scholarships to them. We will send them blasts that say, remember, we need your brag sheets in order to start your recommendations. Little things, well, significant things, but we use that a lot to communicate directly with our students, most often related to colleges or visits or things that they need to bring to us. So that's been very helpful on that front.
I think that the area of communication is really a good focus. I think this conversation is a good one. One of the reasons why we're moving so much toward using Naviance is because it is such an effective way to reach all groups. And teaching students to use Naviance early. And with Course Planner, our goal is to get them on Naviance in the 9th grade. Is for them to realize that Naviance is not just a way to do a college search, but it's a way to communicate. I can send out an email to all of my counselees with the click of a button. I can say to all of my 12th graders, I need your brag sheets by Monday, or I'm going to come find you.
Great.
And we need to make them as familiar and comfortable with their Naviance account as they are with their Xbox and their iPhone and all those other ways, because it is so efficient and it is so effective. And parents have that opportunity. They can go to the Family Connection and also do that. Just as I think that the grade portal has provided an opportunity. I'm looking forward to the ways in which Genesis can expand, not just in communicating grades, but other kinds of information, the course recommendation timeline, things like that down the road. So I think, obviously, we need to utilize technology to improve communication. But I'm a counselor. We are counselors. And what we like best is face-to-face. We really like face-to-face. You can't do that all the time. You can't meet with 200 students and their parents face-to-face all the time, but we need to do it sometimes. So those personal counseling sessions with a student, those personal junior conferences, those opportunities next week for 8th grade parent night, for a counselor to be in a room and see their 8th grade parents for the first time are so essential to us. Those kinds of communications are really valuable.
No, thank you. That's excellent. I would certainly, with Naviance, the more that you can do, the better. It clearly is a great program, and whatever training that can be done early on for the kids and the parents, using technology for the training, I think makes a lot of sense. The other thing I just want to ask, just kind of in general, how it's working out with the overall caseload. I would imagine both of you clearly handling supervisory roles, got lots on your plate, to say the least. And obviously, as you mentioned, you want to make sure that that's not the kid's problem, that's your problem, and you're doing everything you can. But I guess a concern that possibly we have as a board is with the bubble classes coming to the high school soon. How do you think we're going to be able to handle that? Do we need more counselors, I guess, is the question.
Yes, yes, and yes.
This is the time to tell us.
That would be a wasted opportunity if I said no. One of the things I will say, and I know that we're focusing primarily on the high school, but one of the other perks that I didn't anticipate being as wonderful as it is time with elementary and middle school counselors. And I met with all the middle school counselors last week, and I asked them, what would you like the Board of Education to know about what you're doing? And if they told me all but the one thing they did want to say was thank you. Because just returning that third counselor to both buildings has allowed them to do all kinds of things that they couldn't do before. And that's absolutely true at the high school. I think that we need to maintain the counseling staff, and if we could add, that would be great. The process, the things that we need to do with kids are harder. The college application process is more difficult than it used to be. Counseling issues are greater than they used to be. They really are. And it's incredible. K through 12, one of the most, when I asked all the counselors, what are your needs, what are you dealing with? Out of every single counselor, K through 12, the one thing that came out is interesting because it's so tied with the NYU group, is anxiety. And the anxiety is about the uncertainty. What do I do? What's the right course? What's a good enough grade? What should I do? What club should I join? And that doesn't matter whether you're K through 12. And that really does require personal counseling. And that's done best when your caseload is reasonable. You know, we're not complaining.
Right.
But we don't want it to get any higher.
No, nor do we. Thank you. Last thing I just want to ask quickly, how specifically are we fostering relationships with colleges and universities? I know that in the past, some of the directors really got out there and were really, meeting folks, and there was a big effort there, and I'm just curious what we're doing specifically in expanding that universe.
Well, I did a little bit of my homework, and I was glad to say that. One of the things that we're doing is we're trying to spend more time, instead of sending us to them, we're trying to bring them to us. And this year, we had 101 college reps come to Westfield High School to visit with students, which is about 25% more than last year. Because we can go to them, but there's nothing more valuable than having a college admission rep come to our high school and meet our kids. We were talking the other day, and at our college night, we also had a record number of colleges at college night, 189, which was significantly more. I think it's interesting that we had half as many actual reps come and sit in a conference room and meet our students. Is that one of the most valuable things that happens to at college night, in addition to our students and their families having the opportunity to see hundreds of colleges, is for those college reps to be escorted from where they sign in to where their table is by a Westfield High School student, and to talk to that student about Westfield High School, about what they're studying, about what their classes are like, about what activities they're in. And by the time we always tell them to take the longest walk to where they're going, so that they can have the most sustained conversation with a rep. Because that representative leaves with an image, with a picture of Westfield High School that they can get from us, but not in the same way. So we want them to come to us. But we maintain our membership, and we are active in NACAC. Every college, in addition to visiting high schools to find out what they're doing, we are all actively visiting colleges, most especially our new counselors, who are eager to get out there and see what colleges are like. I also have to put in a really good, strong word for our two new counselors. They are really amazing. Their learning curve is beyond. They're not only holding on, they are contributing to the department in really important ways and stepping up. So we need to go out there, we need to be active, we need to make connections with colleges, absolutely. We never miss an opportunity to pick up the phone and call a college. That's a good one.
I could just add, too, every single one of the, I think you said 101 reps that has come to our school just to meet individually with students is first met by one of the counselors. And some of them, I think some of the repeats who have come through are certainly not surprised by it, but many of them will come and say to me or whoever they're meeting with, we can go to your office and sit down and talk for a few minutes, and we'll spend 15, 20 minutes speaking with them about our school, getting updates about their schools, talking about our school. At college night, we sit down with them, with all of them on a more informal basis and eat dinner with them and circulate to make sure that they are recognizing us. We have them fill out a survey at the end of college night that asks them about that overall, asks for suggestions, improvements, whether they will return, and every single one that I looked at said absolutely they will be back. We've also had representatives from colleges come and spend lunch with us. We've chipped in and ordered pizzas, and we've sat down with them for 45 minutes, the entire department, just to get updates on their schools and let them know what's going on with us. So we really take advantage of every opportunity that we have and create opportunities that we haven't in the past, and really make that a priority for us.
All right, well, thank you again for stepping up and all the great things you're doing. Thanks, Rich.
Mitch actually touched on a few things I wanted to touch on, but one is, so I'm very excited about going electronic next year. That's very exciting. And I'm just curious, so the counselor recommendation and the profile will also go electronic? Like the whole package that you used to mail, boom, will go electronically?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, to the majority of schools. Not all schools are accepting electronically, but every school that will, that's how we will be sending.
Wow, that's very exciting. And the other thing is, the ACT, which is becoming more and more popular. I was wondering, I'm not sure how we would go about this, but to look into Westfield being a testing center for the ACT, because right now, like I was told, hurry up and sign up because they fill up. There aren't a lot of schools that actually give the ACT. And I was wondering if that was something we might look into for our students. You don't have to answer that right now, just put it in the back.
No, it's a good suggestion to look into, yes, absolutely.
It is, and I agree that we can look into it. I think that it's interesting, but I think there is a certain, for some students, an advantage to taking the test in your home school, real or imagined. That would be interesting data, but I don't really know. But, you know, again, that would require someone stepping up and coordinating that, because it's those kinds of tests are pretty large, a pretty big job with a lot of responsibilities. But it is really something to think about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to put the idea
We'll
out
put it
there.
on the agenda.
This is the stress for the parents, too.
Yeah.
Take them to.
Kenilworth, Roselle Park,
Yeah,
Bergen County.
Woodbridge.
Yeah, Woodbridge.
yeah.
Yep.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Go ahead, President.
Building also on what, something Mitch had said, and on some notes Mark and I have been passing back and forth. You mentioned that, of course, more staff would be helpful. What else, or in other ways, can we as a board help you to reach the vision that you have for the department?
Feels like Christmas all over.
You can make the list. We'll fulfill it.
You know, I'm going to say, I don't know everything I'm talking about in this particular one, but I think that there are things that Genesis can do for us that would really be helpful. I would love to increase the opportunity through Genesis.
So Genesis training?
No, some of the things that Genesis is capable of doing that we don't have access to yet,
Right.
and maybe like doing all recommendations online, sending schedules home through the internet, you know, expanding the grade portal to be real information portal, I think would be a really big help to us and to the staff as well. Everything could go one time through that procedure. That would be great. We also, one of the things you could do for us, since you asked, would be to increase the travel budget. Because, because a lot of the things that you mentioned that are significant, and that is going out and visiting schools, is expensive. And our travel budget, our conference money now averages $180 a counselor. That doesn't take you very far. So it is difficult. And there are college tours that are available, but you know, there's a great college tour that's coming up, but it really conflicts with our massive scheduling time in the 8th grade, and no counselor is going to leave their 8th graders to visit colleges. That's a choice we have to make. So that would really be helpful. To give us more resources to do those kinds of things, to build those connections, would be really helpful.
Do we own the software that they're talking about with Genesis, or is it more modules that we have to buy?
Right, some of it we do own. We've been rolling it out gradually so that everybody understands the pieces we've been rolling out, and some others would be an additional module, you're right.
Dave?
Sure. Thank you both for being here and some really good advances. And one of the takeaways for me is how you're leveraging technology, and I think that's just huge. Maureen, you had a line that I really liked: reduce paperwork to increase peoplework.
Yeah.
So on that theme, is it apparent now to the average junior and senior that people time has increased? If not, when do you think the positive aspects of that people time will be felt by the consumers?
I think it has, particularly in the course selection process when we meet with our students for their course requests for next year and recommendations. This past year, we were able to enter all of that data directly into Genesis. Before, we would take it on a hard copy. We would spend our time later in the day hand inputting all those recommendations. That's a huge savings in time, and I think our students feel that immediately, because we are not sitting there with piles of paper entering 7 course selections for each student. So that's an immediate advantage. I think that a huge part of our push this year, our training in Genesis is February 3rd. It's training in eDocs, and Naviance is February 3rd. It's an 8-hour training. We'll be a little tired, but it will be worth it. I think that training will then carry into our junior conference time, where we will spend a good deal of time explaining to our students and their parents how the change will happen, how the college application process is going to change for them and for us, so that more time can be spent talking about the colleges, the majors, and less time going over, this is how you fill out a form. So I think that they will feel an immediate change in the way their time is spent and the way their time is spent with us.
And one kind of bigger picture add-on to that, and folks that were participants in the strategic planning group that we had about a year and a half ago, and Gretchen, you may remember this, I think we were in the same group. Do you feel as counselors and kind of co-leaders of this unit that we're providing enough tools to our students so that they can self-advocate? Or is there still a component of kind of pulling them along, or, you know, teach someone to fish and they can fish the rest of their lives kind of thing? And
It's a great question.
It seems that you're headed there, but
Yeah.
is that self-advocacy something that you think about improving?
Oh, absolutely. You know, the three prongs to a good counseling program are academic advisement, career advisement, and personal and social skills, self-advocacy being one. One of the interesting advantages of the course planner part of Naviance is that it encourages the student then charts their course. The student charts and keeps track of their courses and can say, oh, this is what I'm taking in my 9th grade year. And if I want to take that in my 12th grade year, I need to think about this and this and this, instead of the counselor managing the transcript, which is the traditional way we do it. That's the way it's been. That's a tremendous example of self-advocacy. If that student can sit down and say, this is what I found out about who I am. This is my personality profile, which matters in my choice of college, career, whatever it is. This is my learning style. These are my areas of interest. Now I'm going to sit down and I'm going to look at all of the courses of study, the program of study that Westfield offers, and start to pick for myself and then decide for myself what I need to do to be able to take that course. We really believe our model of counseling is developmental, and part of our job is to cut the cord.
Yeah.
It is to develop in students the ability to be fully, well, not fully independent. Believe me, I have kids through college and after. They're never fully independent. Fully independent or fully ready to be as independent as they need to be when they go to college. We're keenly aware of that. We were at a training last week with Perry Zerkel, 504 training, all the counselors at the high school went. It was wonderful. And he used the word coddle, and he said, don't coddle. And we took that to heart. We're not going to coddle. We're not going to be cold and cruel, but we need to develop a sense of advocacy and responsibility in kids.
And last one, have you automated the senior exit survey process yet?
Not yet.
So that seems like a quick win.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, you can do that through,
SurveyMonkey,
yeah, the problem with SurveyMonkey is getting 486 kids in a computer lab.
Yeah.
You know, which is the only way you can be sure they're going to do it. So sometimes reading the papers is, at least we know what we're getting. But yeah, I agree with you on that one, for sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
More questions? Jane?
Yeah, I have a general question. I know you've been spending time in the administration, the organization, and the support of the department, the people, procedural analysis. But as you step back, and especially Maureen, you have time in the district, Christine, you may have observations that have helped you get to this place. What have you seen that directs your attention as either changes, trends, understandings of how things are, the kids and their reactions, or, you know, things that they're encountering? What are your observations from that, and how do you think we can go about managing those changes that you see? I told you it was a big picture.
Oh, yeah, it's great. I could go on for a really long time. I feel like Christine.
Go for it.
I think you're right. There is an advantage to perspective. I think that one of the changes that I have observed most over the years is intensity. I think that everything just feels more intense, and that is true for students as well. I think everything for students feels more urgent than it used to be. I think that one of the things that we try to deal with, especially paying close attention to the part of our role that talks about personal social skills and personal well-being, is, Peter, you're going to love this, is teaching them to enjoy the present, is to be mindful of where they are and less fretful about where they're going. Because I do think that, that's the hard data That's what some people would call the soft side of counseling. I don't see it that way at all. I see that as an essential component. But I think in recognizing the intensity, recognizing the strong motivation, which is a positive thing. We have highly motivated students, highly motivated, and parents. Is that sometimes with that goes an undue amount of stress or anxiety that at times can become a negative force. And that, I think, is important. I think the other thing that we need to pay attention to is the fact that success can be too narrowly defined. It can be too narrowly defined by whatever bumper sticker you want to put on your car, and I don't mean that in a frivolous way. I mean that sincerely. Or what, when I grew up, it was what penny loafers you wore. That's really aging me, I'm sorry. But I think success sometimes is more stringent, and in a lot of ways it's more costly than it was. And I think that is a significant trend. I think another thing that we need to realize is that as the world has changed, and it has really changed, that the ways that what students see as a course or a track, and I don't mean an academic track, I mean a career track or a life track, doesn't sometimes encompass all the real opportunity that's out there. So I think one of our biggest challenges is to ask kids to see things that they don't know exist. In terms of, 5 years ago, I had a student of mine who said, I want to go to college because I want to design computer games. And I said, really? Really? And he said, yeah. And he is fully employed and doing extremely well designing computer games, which is a legitimate major in many colleges in this country. And I think those kinds of things, we need to do that more. I think we need to just open the window wider for kids so that they feel more opportunity and less anxiety. That's my opinion.
Did
I answer your question?
Yes, yes, because I really wanted to have a sense of the challenges, what you see as your major focus of challenge, and certainly that needs to be kept forefront as you manage time and resources to assist in neutralizing the environment or making it more supportive. And so as we spend time with technology, as we automate processes, and we free up the human time element, the people time, that should get a good result.
I hope so. I think so.
Thank you.
Jane.
Hi, thank you. So I just had a quick question regarding the K-12 piece. After listening to all of the information out of the high school, I can't believe you get to go home to sleep for a couple hours, let alone out of the high school building. But I was wondering if you could just talk to us a little bit about, a few years ago we had made it a priority to have a K-12 supervisor. And I was wondering if you could just give us a little bit of that vision of what you're seeing working with the counselors in the other schools.
They are amazing people. And that, I said, has been a real perk that I didn't know I would enjoy as much as I am and learn as much. It's very interesting. I was here in the district when the first elementary school counselor was hired. And Lynn was one and Frank was the other, and I remember being really excited about what they were going to do and how that was going to work. And I have, through the years, had the opportunity to work with them on some occasions when things have happened across the grade levels. But actually meeting with them and learning what their day is like has been very interesting. They do exactly what needs to be done for the age of the children they work with. The elementary school focus is very much to support the classroom teacher and to support those students who need both individual and group counseling. They enjoy time in the classroom. I think they'd enjoy more time in the classroom, but they do a remarkable amount of work in the shared time that they have. I think that they do a lot of work with parents in a different kind of way than we do. And I have learned, really interestingly, that they are such an important part of the INRS process and the 504 process. I think I should also mention that 8 of the counselors in this district are HIB anti-bullying specialists, which has been really an interesting, addition to the responsibility, and all of the counselors in the elementary school have taken on that responsibility along with everything else. And we have met both at K through 12 to discuss what that responsibility is like and how how it's going at each building to compare. So they really are an integral part of that. The middle school counselors, middle school developmental counseling is somewhat different. They really, they spend a lot of time in the classroom. The benefit to them, and this was part of their very, very big thank you to you, is that they are able, because they focus on one grade, to work very closely with that 6th grade team of teachers so that they become part of the team, which enables them to know their students very well as students and as counselees and in all those different ways. And also really building on, they play a big role in school-wide activities. One of the things that I really loved to learn about this year is both middle schools, have taken their peer leadership program and redirected it, revitalized it, and in both schools it has a huge community service piece, which has become a focus for their buildings and actually for all buildings, which I think has made them very important in their buildings in a very different way. So the model, I think, is, you know, when I go back and I do my homework and I think of K through 12 developmental counseling, I think that's what's happening in this district. It is very appropriate to the building level need. They're wonderful.
I had one more question, either both of you, and Maureen, you just touched on it, and it has to do with the impact of the bullying investigation process, and we're not very far into our understanding of supporting the needs of the legislation and supporting the environment and the kids and the interactions, as well as the understanding how to investigate and how to get closure and resolution. What can you tell us about what we've learned generally from the counselors who are participating, especially at the younger grades, and then you know, actually at each level?
Well, one of the things I can tell you is that at least at the elementary level, their perspective is that the reporting is dying down a little bit. It's fading, and that is probably, I think, not probably, I know, because of the work that's being done in the classrooms in terms of really telling kids what bullying is, of developing programs. I think I know it's at Wilson School where they do a book a month, and each of the books that they're reading at every grade level reinforce an anti-bullying theme, something that teaches kids. One of the most important things that you want to teach anybody in terms of bullying is empathy. Because if empathy is there, if empathy and an understanding of a different perspective exists, the opportunity for bullying diminishes. They go together. And also to build in kids a real sense of self-worth. You know, there have been a lot of words in the years of counseling, but there is a real need for self-worth and self-value. So I think that the counselors there are focusing on that. I think also educating parents in the process about understanding that what you hear is only one side of any story. Peter's here, and in almost, I would say, I don't want to throw a number out there because I could be wrong, but I would say that in 50%, 60% of our HIB incident reports, they really turn out to be conflict more than bullying. They happen to be, and this is a good part of the law. I think at the beginning of the year, the law was not our favorite thing because it was cumbersome and it was awkward and it was so new with not a lot of time to prepare. It's like anything else, the more you do it, the better you understand it. But for us at the high school, it's an interesting thing, and I think this has happened, I know it's happened in the middle school in at least 2 cases, is it's enabled us to identify students in need of a different kind of counseling support. Some of our cases really involve a group of students who lack social skills. They need more conflict resolution skills. They need to learn how to disagree without being mean. And that we have, our school safety committee is going to identify a target group to work with that and to build in them the kind of skills and abilities they need to work things out and to get along. And also to make new friends, because sometimes what happens, you'll see that, I'm sure you know them, is that the students become the group of friends becomes so small, and if there's tension in the group, then the group suffers. It's very true in elementary school, it's really true in middle school, and we still see it in the high school. And the ability to step out of a group of friends and make new friends is really, really important. So I think in almost every one of our principals' reports, there's a recommendation for a counseling component to see what we can do to support, not just impose a consequence, because sometimes they need to be there, but to provide the support so that it doesn't happen again. So we are learning something from them, but it's a lot of paperwork.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah.
Other questions? Anyone in the audience while they are still here to answer them? All right, I'll just leave you with this thought. Thank you for everything that you do. It's it's a very necessary function. It's probably something that the average parent doesn't think a lot about until they need the help and the services, and then they can't get them fast enough. And that's probably frustrating to everybody, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for your support.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Move to minutes. Motion that we approve the minutes of the board meetings held on December 13th, 2011, special meeting of January 3rd, 2012, and the private minutes of December 13, 2011, and January 3rd, 2012.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Personnel, Jane Clancy.
Okay, I would like to ask for the board's approval of personnel items number 1 through 31, as well as addendum item number 32. Have a second?
Second.
Yeah.
And
Questions? Turn it over to you. Yeah.
And then there's one retirement on the agenda, and this is certainly a very difficult one to announce. Anthony Grasso died recently after a brief illness. Mr. Grasso was a valued member of the science department faculty at Westfield High School, where he had taught biology for more than 23 years. He also, over many of those years, was involved with both the students and staff in Project 79. We certainly offer our condolences to Mr. Grasso's wife and to his 4 children. And we also offer support to his colleagues who have worked with him day in and day out for well over 20 years. He has touched many lives as a teacher, and he will be missed in the halls of Westfield High School.
Any comments, questions? If none,
Mrs.
Vince?
Clancy?
Yes.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Mr. Matesic?
Yes.
Mr. Finn?
Yes, with an abstention from number 22.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Kurzbeck?
Yes.
Mrs. White?
Yes.
Mr. Slater?
Yes.
Mrs. Owen?
Yes.
There you go.
A memorable
You got it
one.
right.
Yes.
All right. Facilities, Jane.
No report.
No report. Long-range planning, Ginny.
Yes, I do have a report. Tonight, the Long Range Planning Committee is presenting the board with a formal proposal for a district-wide enrollment projection study. You may remember that in October, Dr. Dolan brought the topic of district enrollment to the attention of the Long Range Committee. And while reviewing the district's October 15th official enrollment report, Dr. Dolan noted her concern that traditional enrollment prediction factors had become less successful in forecasting enrollment. Factors that had been used in the past were kindergarten enrollments to predict first grade population, county and state birth rates to predict entry of students into kindergarten, 3- and 5-year rolling enrollment factors. Dr. Dolan cited additional factors that were likely to impact our enrollment numbers but couldn't be used reliably without future research. These factors included local real estate market, information housing sales, tear downs and rebuilds, the economic conditions, local private full-day kindergarten populations, the number of students arriving into the district and going out of the district to non-public schools at typical break years, for example, between grades 5 and 6 and between grades 8 and 9. At that time, in the fall, Dr. Dolan asked Long Range Committee to consider hiring a consulting service to review the district's enrollment data, local demographic population data, and trends to help the district understand and identify factors and measures to forecast enrollment. Tonight, the committee is bringing forth a unanimous recommendation from Ross Haber Associates to conduct a 5-year enrollment projection study for the district. The projections will be based upon, but not limited to, a history of enrollment by district, by school, and by grade. In addition, the study will examine sales of new and existing housing and the potential impact this might have on district enrollment. During the course of the study, school building principals will also provide a survey of how their buildings are utilized, and that will be followed up with building tours. The study will produce reports comprising narratives, charts, and tables presenting the findings, and a public presentation of the findings will be made. The report will tell us district-wide K-12 enrollment projections for each individual school, an analysis of kindergarten and grade 1 projections, an assessment of intermediate schools' projections regarding if and when the likely best time is to end Washington school redistricting, an assessment of space utilization in each school, and recommendations for maintaining enrollment projections. The report will contain will contain recommendations that tell us how to operate within stated guidelines for class size, and of course these guidelines will be based on our policy on class size. A summary of housing sales, including a 10-year projection using housing permits, growth by census tract, and growth analysis by census tract. A comparative analysis of population from the 2000 census and the 2010 census based on county and state data. And then finally, conclusions and recommendations. We can expect the study to conclude in the spring, and of course that would be based on the ability to deliver quality data to the consultant. The Long Range Planning Committee is committed to using district data to determine future needs and actions. This study supports that goal. The committee feels that the results of this study will provide the foundation to inform many district enrollment decisions in the future. The consultant who we asked to give us a proposal is well-versed in this activity. He has an education background, having professional credentials, as well as time spent as a principal in not only Hillside High School locally and a New York high school. He started a consulting company specializing in demographic and redistricting studies, as well as transportation operations and efficiency studies, and he has been at that since 1994. He has provided resources for us to evaluate his activities in other places, 37 identified districts in New Jersey and New York, as well as a number of similar nearby districts, West Orange and Springfield, to name a few of his most recent studies. The cost of the study is projected to be $5,000, and we have a motion on the finance agenda to that effect. Any
questions on that?
Discussion, considerations? I thank the members of Long Range Planning who spent time reviewing the proposal and discussing the needs that should be represented in the proposal, as well as others who have contributed some thoughtfulness to broadening the scope and making the proposal declarative and specific, so that we can manage our expectations of what we deliver and also what we receive. And if we should support the proposal and this motion, I'm looking forward to supporting the study and really getting the data and the recommendations in a very timely way that will help us manage our recommendations for the future. This is an opportunity to really invest in the data-driven process.
Is there a sense on the time?
Spring.
Spring.
March
Great.
Hopefully, the board can look forward to a presentation in the March timeframe and preliminary data for analysis by committee prior to that time.
Great. Wonderful.
All right. As Ginny mentioned, we'll vote on that as finance item number 8. Anything else for long-range planning?
There is a meeting Thursday, and should we be successful in initiating this project, we'll talk about kicking it off and data gathering and expectations for bringing resources together as to how to progress.
Terrific. Policies, Roseanne.
Yes. I would like to move that the board affirms the superintendent's decision on HIB incidences 12E12 and 12E13 for the reasons set forth therein.
Second.
Vince?
Mrs. Kerstad?
Yes.
Mrs. Clancy?
Yes.
Mr. Matesic?
Yes.
Mr. Finn?
Yes.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Mrs. Lights?
Yes.
Mr. Slater?
Yes.
Mrs. Olig?
I'm going to abstain.
Anything else in policies?
No?
All right. Curriculum, instruction, and programs. Ann?
I would ask the board to approve for first reading the following curricula. Under Fine Arts, Computer Graphic Design 1 and 2, Crafts Exploration, Ceramics, World Craft Samplers, and under Math, Elementary Mathematics. May I have a second? Ginny? Thank you. Okay, so SIT met on December 15th to review the fine arts and math curricula on the agenda tonight. Starting with the computer graphic design courses, it is important to note that there has been a change of designation for these two courses. Computer graphic design 1 and 2 are now designated as practical arts courses. In the past, they were designated as fine arts courses. As each high school student needs 5 credits of both practical arts and fine arts to graduate, students and parents need to be aware of this change. Graphic design number 1 provides students with the basic knowledge and skills of visual technology and their relationship with the fine and commercial arts. And graphic design 2 provides students with advanced knowledge of visual technology and covers the principles and elements of design with advanced production in traditional and computer-generated media. Both of these curricula have been updated to align with the Common Core state standards, and both are enjoying the new computer lab, which was created with funding from the Coalition of the Arts last year. There are 12 desktop computers, 8 laptops, and a smartboard that was donated by the PTSO. And the teachers were very excited about their new lab. The other 3 classes are fine arts courses. Crafts Exploration is a full-year course during which students create both contemporary and traditional crafts, working with fiber, textiles, paper, and jewelry. The curriculum also was updated to align with the Common Core standards, and we are currently running 1 section of this class. The other 2 courses, Ceramics and World Craft Sampler, are very popular half-year courses. This year we have 12 sections running of each, with a little under 500 students participating. Both curricula have been updated to align with the Common Core standards, and many students take these courses to fulfill their fine arts requirements. So that is a little bit about the fine arts, and if there are no questions, I am now going to ask Mrs. Keycheck, the district's math supervisor, to present the math curriculum to us. Is she still here?
She is.
Thank you. Thank you.
Somehow Mrs. Carey thought this would be a good idea for me to do this part. Actually, I welcome the opportunity to talk about the elementary math curriculum tonight because you will be seeing me a lot over the next few months, I think, because we are actually we are revising our curriculum K-12 in math, so this is the first step. Forgive me if you know all of this, but I'm going to just provide a little background, and that's that the Common Core state standards were released in June 2010 and adopted by the state of New Jersey that same month. And since then, only for math and language arts. And since that time, the math teachers and the language arts teachers and elementary level, the supervisors, everyone has been examining the standards, talking about what it's going to mean for us in terms of content and in terms of practices. And now we're at the point where they need to be implemented. The timeline there are 45 states, I believe, 45 states and a couple of territories who have adopted the Common Core standards. And their timeline for implementation differs depending on the state. In the state of New Jersey, we are adopting the language arts standards all at once. However, the math standards, this year it's K2, and next year it's 3-5 plus the high school, and the year after that it's 6-8. And then the year after that, in 2014-15, the new assessments kick in, which means that then our state assessments, NJASC, et cetera, they're gone, and we have, if all continues on this path, we have national assessments. And that's what we're looking towards. So we are revising our curriculum to meet the Common Core state standards, which will be assessed in the year 2014-15. The process for that, or what those assessments are going to look like, is still being developed. And there are two assessment consortia. We belong to PARC, which is the Partnership for Assessment of Readiness for College and Careers. So that's the one that we belong to in the state of New Jersey. So they're still talking about if this means one assessment at the end of the year or multiple assessments during the course of the year and so forth. But right now, we just have to worry about what we're doing with our students, if our students are meeting the standards that they need to meet. Interestingly enough, our current kindergarten students will be the first ones to take the third grade math assessment, the new third grade math assessment. So this is really, I guess that's part of the reason why the state of New Jersey decided to implement them in this fashion. You have the document in front of you. It's a little bit different from other curriculum documents, and I'll get to that in a second. But let me just talk to you about the content that's receiving new or increased emphasis. For one thing, there are specific benchmarks for attainment of basic facts. That was never the case before. Students added, and they subtracted, and they multiplied, and they divided, and they became more proficient at those things, but nowhere in the standards did it ever say, by this grade, they should be able to do that. So briefly, the way this works is that in kindergarten, students are expected, all students are expected to be adding and subtracting within 5, which means up to a sum of 5. In first grade, the expectation is that all students will be able to add and subtract within 10. In second grade, that they will be able to add and subtract within 20, so in other words, up to 10 plus 10. In third grade, that they will be able to multiply and divide within 100, meaning multiplication facts up to 10 times 10. In fourth grade, what's really new and interesting is that students will be expected to use and understand the standard algorithm for addition and subtraction. So that will make a lot of people happy because there are a lot of different algorithms out there, but there's always some controversy about whether they should learn the one true standard algorithm. So the way the new standards have it now is that by the end of fourth grade, students will be able to add and subtract using what we call the standard algorithm, the one that most of us use. And in fifth grade, students will be able to multiply using the standard algorithm. Sixth grade is reserved for dividing using the standard algorithm, but we don't have to talk about that tonight. We're only going up to grade 5. Now, you'll also notice that if you read through the content, scope, and sequence, there's a word fluency throughout. And fluency simply means that students will be able to do these things, that they will be able to compute basic facts fluently, meaning that they don't have to stop and think about it. If you can, I can make an analogy to a foreign language. If you are fluent in a language, you don't stop and think about, is this the right word, is this the right phrase? It's the same thing for mathematics. If you are fluent with mathematics, a specific skill, then you don't have to stop and think about it. You don't stop and think what 8 times 7 is, you just know. Another is that something that's a little bit different for these standards is that all students by the end of 5th grade should be, there's an expectation that students will be competent with whole numbers, fractions, and decimals by the end of 5th grade, so that when they get to 6th grade, they can start applying those skills to more sophisticated problems, ratio and proportion, that sort of thing. Generating and displaying measurement data, you might see that somewhere in the standards for certain grade levels. What that means is that they don't just measure, but rather they take their measurements, say lengths, say they're measuring lengths of bindings of books. They take those measurements and they plot them on a number line. And they get a sense of how that number line works, the way numbers are spanning a certain range, and talking about relative position of numbers on a number line. So that's a little bit different. Before, students were measuring, but they weren't relating that to anything else. There's an idea of composing and decomposing shapes and numbers. Composing, putting together, decomposing, taking apart. And that relates geometry and numbers in that if you're composing a shape, you're taking, let's say, two triangles and joining them together to form a rectangle or a square. Decomposing, you're taking them apart. You're taking a square, drawing a diagonal, and getting two triangles. It's the same thing with composing and decomposing numbers. If you have the number 237, you decompose it into 200s, 3 10s, and 7 1s. That's what that's talking about. You'll find that there's computation found if you look at the clusters, the content clusters on each, either in the standards or in this content scope and sequence. You will find there are two clusters. One is operations and algebraic thinking, and the other is numbers and operations in base 10. You will find computation in both of them. However, in the first one, it's more computation based on mental strategies, understanding properties of numbers, where in the numbers in base 10, it's more algorithms. An algorithm being a procedure. How are you going to do this? There are standards for the math standards, the Common Core State Standards in mathematics. They're separated into two parts. One is called the Standards for Mathematical Practice. These are not content or grade specific. They span grades K-12, actually pre-K to 12. They should be overarching, integrated throughout the curriculum, and they describe the types of expertise that students who really understand mathematics display, and that they must develop and that they must practice. They also talk about the instruction and the learning experiences, or they speak to the instruction and learning experiences that teachers must employ to develop these practices in their students. So the curriculum document you have in front of you has been developed actually over several years with a large group of teachers. I would say maybe 30 of the elementary teachers contributed to this over time, because we had standards that were coming out and then they were rejected, and then we waited for this, and the state kept changing their mind on what we were going to be doing. So over time, teachers got together with me and we put together what we thought would be a good curriculum document, and then we had to change it a little bit for the next iteration of standards. So there has been a fair amount of input on this, and since the final draft has been ready for teachers to look at, I've been bringing it to grade level meetings and buildings and individual teachers and so forth to get input from them. You will notice that in the document you have, usually when we do the appendices, you'll have an appendix for each content area, and there'll be a couple of bullets that talks about those specific standards that relate to the curriculum. Here in the appendix, we made a decision to add quite a bit of the K-5 standards as they're written, because the standards are no longer a sentence that says students will be able to add and subtract. Students will be able to add using this, this, and this, and by the way, they'll be able to do that. So each standard is close to a paragraph as you go along. And my feeling on this is that for teachers to really use this well, they need to understand what the standards say. They don't need a synopsis of it, they need it right in their curriculum. So if they're teaching first grade, you will notice for each grade level the content, scope, and sequence takes up one page, but then they can go back to the appendix and see what this really entails. The standards for mathematical practice with a lot of discussion is included. And also teachers can look back to the standards and they can say, okay, my student needs to know this in 4th grade, but this is what they learned in 2nd and 3rd grade, and this is where they're going in 5th grade. So that was the intent of including all of that. So that's a quick and dirty explanation of where we are.
I think that was great. Does anyone have any questions on the table? Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to the SIP committee for all of your help with this.
We'll be seeing you. Okay, so I guess we can vote on the first reading unless anyone has any other questions or comments.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Mr. Slater?
Yes.
Mr. Matesic?
Yes.
Mr. Finn?
Yes.
Mrs. Clancy?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Kirstein?
Yes.
Mrs. Lights?
Yes.
Mrs. Olig?
Yes.
All right, I'd ask the board to consider finance items 1 through 9. A second?
Second?
Thank you. And I would note number 9, various gifts from people in the district, a trombone gifted to the Fine Arts Department for use in the instrumental music program, an upright piano gifted to the Fine Arts Department for use at Roosevelt School, a monetary donation to the Franklin School for a writing workshop training for Franklin first graders, monetary donation from the Franklin School PTO to be used to purchase 8 Hewlett-Packard 5-monitor multi-seat computers, and a monetary gift to Makwa School. So we thank you very much for those. Are there any questions on the finance motions?
Mr. Matesic?
Yes.
Mr. Slater?
Yes.
Mr. Finn?
Yes.
Ms. Carey?
Yes.
Mrs. Clancy?
Yes.
Mr. Friedman?
Yes.
Ms. Kirstein?
Yes.
Mrs. Lights?
Yes.
Mrs. Olig?
Yes.
Ask the board to note the notes for the record, and that will bring us into legislation. Ann?
I had planned to say a few words about the state of the state address, but unfortunately, as we all heard, the governor postponed his address because of the tragic death of Assemblyman Alex DeCroce. Terrible news. So when I last checked before I came, he had not rescheduled, but when he does, I'll report about that. The one thing I did want to say is that during the lame duck session, there were no big education bills that were passed, but the one bill that was passed was the bill that allows school boards and municipalities to move the school board elections and the budget vote to November. If we do that, or the town does that, and we keep the tax levy under 2%, there would be no vote on the budget. So I think that at a future meeting, we might discuss the pros and cons of moving our election to November.
Sure, and as I understand it, I don't know that we know the details, do we, of the legislation exactly?
No, because the regulations haven't been written or anything like that, but it has been passed, and something I read led me to believe that he had signed it today, the governor.
It's a constitutional requirement.
Yeah.
But do we know that if it's the municipality's decision or the board's decision yet? Is that still?
It can be either,
It can
the
be
way
either.
I read it.
It's either.
Yes, it's either.
2 options.
Right.
Well, and there's a
Three
third
options.
option,
Yes.
actually,
Right.
also, which is
That's
very
a,
kind of... you have to-
petition.
Yeah,
15% of the
petition for a
voters.
second question,
Right.
and it's the majority of people who voted. It's very technical.
Right.
I doubt that will happen.
Right.
But...
Right, but I think you're right. Now, once we have the facts, let's lead us through a
No
discussion.
reason to speculate.
Great. Anything else?
No, that's it.
All right. Any unfinished business from last meeting? Any new business? Ad hoc committee reports.
Yes, the Tech Committee continues to meet weekly, actually be meeting in 12 hours. And we are excited to announce that we are targeting Tuesday night, the board meeting at Tuesday evening, February 28th, to give a full report to the Board of Education on the vision, mission, and strategy for technology in our district, including our District Goes Wireless effort. So stay tuned, and we hope to bring you that report on February 28th. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other ad hoc committee reports? Liaison reports. Jane?
I attended the rec mission meeting last night, January 9th. Not a lot of new updates. Town council liaison reported that DPW was finally able to finish the cleanup from the storms. That was really a huge task, but the weather cooperated recently, and they were able to finally actually get all the streets as well as get into the parks, where quite a bit of debris had fallen as well. And some work is being done at the pool. They're working on some concrete walks, getting out some bids for that. Everybody should have received their recycling pamphlets in the mail, as well as make sure that you look for the Rex program information. They send that out in that pamphlet now. Get that out to all the homes, and that's pretty much just about it. It's quite a quick meeting. Evidently, there was a kickoff at 8:30. I don't know. Some sort of game. Just kidding. It was all good.
All right. Any others? I had a couple. Go ahead, Jim.
I attended on January 4th the Union County Ed Services Commission board meeting.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right, two quick ones. The PTC presidents met last Thursday, as is their custom, to meet the first Thursday of every month. Dr. Dolan and I attended on behalf of the board and administration. Several matters were touched upon during the meeting, and I'd like to note one in particular, which is technology. The group had a lengthy discussion about the state of technology in the district and their desire to do something very positive in helping the district get our technology resources where they need to be. It became apparent that we as a board really do need to meet our deliverable of a technology strategy for the district, so we're all working together, toward a unified goal. The PTC is anxious to hear from us, and in the meantime, we discussed their continuing work through their respective PTOs to keep current computers and hardware fully functioning. We talked about possible fundraising efforts they may undertake as a PTC committee. We talked about funds they have raised to date, and we talked about the need to communicate to the community to ensure all those who are contributing funds really know how important it is and how much we appreciate their contributions to date. I look forward to the board and PTC working together to find solutions to the technology needs for all our students. The other note, on a liaison basis, is that tonight Ginny, Dave, and I had just a quick touch point with the town council regarding parking. We anticipate and look forward to hearing from them this month, in all likelihood, Jane. We'll talk about having them to a facilities committee meeting to
Great.
talk about what they're planning. And we're eager to move forward together on that. That's it. Unless there are other reports, at this point, I would recognize the public for any comments or questions. All right. Seeing no one, I'd ask that we consider the following resolutions. Resolved that the Board of Education move into private session for the purpose of discussing personnel, litigation, or negotiations. And be it further resolved that any discussion held by the board, which need not remain confidential, and the results of the discussions will be made public as soon as practicable. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Good night.